Hello and welcome. If you are listening to this story, it means one thing. You want to improve your English. You want to listen better, speak more confidently, and think in English. This story was written for you. Not too fast, not too difficult. Just real English, used naturally. So relax. Take a deep breath. And let the story begin. Part 1. The day everything felt cool yitha. City was unusually quiet that morning. Daniel noticed it the moment he stepped outside his apartment. No loud cars. No people arguing on the street. Even the birds sounded softer than usual. He stood still for a moment, holding his coffee cup, and looked around. Something feels different today, he thought. Daniel was 30 years old. He lived alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building. Nothing special. Nothing terrible. Just ordinary. He worked as a customer support agent for an international company. Every day he answered emails, solved small problems, and apologized for things that were never his fault. Thank you for your patience. We understand your frustration. We will look into this issue. He had written these sentences thousands of times, and every time he wrote them, he felt a little more tired. A life on a repeat. Daniel's life followed the same pattern every day. Wake up, shower, coffee, work, dinner, sleep. Weekends were not much different. He stayed at home, watched videos, sometimes studied English, sometimes not. He had learned English for years. Grammar rules, vocabulary lists, listening exercises. But speaking, that was different. Whenever he tried to speak, his mind froze. The words disappeared. His confidence collapsed. What if I sound stupid? What if I make mistakes? What if people judge me? So most of the time, he stayed silent. The message that changed everything that morning while walking to work. Daniel felt his phone vibrate. A message from an unknown number. Hi, Daniel. We met years ago. I don't know if you remember me, but I think it's time we talked. Daniel stopped walking. His heart started beating faster. Who is this? Years ago. He typed a reply, then deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally, he wrote, "Sorry, I'm not sure who this is." The reply came almost immediately. That doesn't surprise me. You were always the quiet one. Quiet. That word stayed in his mind. Memories from the PSD at work. Daniel couldn't focus. Emails appeared on his screen, but he didn't read them. His thoughts were somewhere else. The quiet one. He remembered university. Group projects where he did the work but never spoke. Presentations where his voice shook. Conversations where he smiled but said nothing. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't lazy. He was just afraid. Afraid of being heard. A decision he couldn't ignore at lunchtime. The phone vibrated again. I'll be at the old cafe near the river today. 6 p.m. if you want answers. Come. Daniel stared at the message for a long time. He could ignore it. Delete it. Pretend it never happened. That's what the old Daniel would do. But something inside him felt different today. The quiet city. The strange message. The feeling that his life was standing still. Maybe this is a chance, he thought. Maybe it's time to stop being quiet. He replied with one simple word. Okay. The air near the river was colder than Daniel expected. He pulled his jacket closer to his body as he walked slowly along the path. The sound of water moving calmly beside him made his thoughts feel louder. He saw the cafe from a distance. It was small, old, warm. Yellow lights shone through the windows. For a moment, he stopped. I can still leave, he thought. I can turn around and go home. But his feet kept moving. The calf by the arrivasar, the bell above the door, rang softly when Daniel entered. The cafe smelled like coffee, wood, and something sweet. Only a few people were inside. Quiet conversations. Soft music. He looked around, then he saw her. She was sitting near the window, holding a cup with both hands. Her hair was shorter than he remembered, but her eyes were the same. Calm. Observing, she noticed him immediately. "Daniel," she said. Standing up, her voice was confident. "Clear." He nodded. "Hi," he replied. Just one word, as usual. A conversation begins. They sat down. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, she smiled gently. "I wasn't sure you would come." Daniel looked at his hands. "I almost didn't." She nodded, as if she understood. "You always avoided difficult conversations." That sentence hit him harder than he expected. "I didn't avoid them," he said quietly. "I just didn't know what to say." She looked at him carefully. "You still don't believe your voice matters, do you?" Daniel didn't answer, because the truth was, she was right. The question he never analyzed. Her name was Emma. They had studied together years ago. She was the opposite of Daniel. She spoke easily. She asked questions. She made mistakes without fear. One day, during a group discussion, she had asked him something. "Daniel, what do you think?" Everyone had looked at him, and he had said nothing. That was the moment. The moment he decided. Silence was safer. Speaking is not perfecto. Anima leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why I messaged you?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Because I remembered you," she said. "And I remembered how much you understood, but never said." She paused. "I became an English teacher." Daniel looked up, surprised. "Really?" She smiled. "Yes. And you know what I teach my students first?" He waited. "That speaking is not about being perfect. It's about being present." Her words stayed in the air. A simple exercise symbol to cover coffee. "I want you to try something," she said. Daniel felt nervous. "Right now?" "Yes, right now." She pointed toward the river outside the window. "Describe what you see." Slowly, no thinking, too much. Daniel swallowed. "I see." He paused. Emma didn't interrupt. "I see the water moving," he continued. "It's not fast. It's calm. And reflective." He stopped. His heart was beating fast. But something felt different. He had spoken, and nothing bad happened. A small change. Emma smiled. "See? You didn't freeze. You didn't disappear." Daniel let out a quiet breath. "I always thought people would judge me." She shook her head. "Most people are too busy judging themselves." That sentence made him laugh. Softly tell for the first time that day, walking home Diaphy and tell at 4 that night. Daniel walked home alone. The city was still quiet. But this time, the silence felt lighter. He replayed the conversation in his head. The words he had spoken. The words he hadn't been afraid of. Maybe speaking isn't about confidence, he thought. Maybe confidence comes after speaking. He opened his apartment door, sat down, and instead of turning on a video, he opened a notebook. At the top of the page, he wrote, "I will speak, even when my voice shakes." The room was quiet when Daniel closed the notebook. He sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, listening to the sounds of the building. A door closing somewhere below. Footsteps in the hallway. Life continuing even when he felt uncertain. He lay down, but sleep did not come easily. His mind was active, not anxious, not afraid, just awake. He replayed Emma's voice in his head. Speaking is not about being perfect. It's about being present. He repeated the sentence silently, again and again. The next morning, Daniel woke up earlier than usual. The sunlight entered the room softly, touching the wall near his desk. He stood up, made coffee, and opened the window. The city was awake now. Cars moved. People walked. Voices filled the air. Normally, these sounds felt distant. Today, they felt closer. At work, Daniel sat in front of his computer and opened his inbox. New messages. New problems. New apologies waiting to be written. But something inside him had shifted. When a colleague approached his desk, Daniel felt the familiar tension in his chest. "Hey Daniel," the colleague said. "Can you explain this issue to me?" Normally, Daniel would nod and send an email instead. This time, he spoke. "Yes," he said. "I think the problem is related to the update from last week." The colleague listened, asked a question. Daniel answered. His voice was not perfect. But it was real after the conversation. Daniel sat back and stared at his screen. His hands were slightly shaking, but he felt proud. "I didn't avoid it," he thought. "I didn't hide." That small moment stayed with him all day. During lunch, Daniel sat alone, as usual. But instead of scrolling through his phone, he put his headphones on and opened an English podcast. Not fast, not dramatic. Just calm voices, clear pronunciation. He didn't understand every word, and for the first time, he didn't care. He focused on rhythm, on tone, on how sentences flowed naturally. He whispered some sentences quietly, repeating them, not to sound perfect, just to feel them. That evening, Daniel received a message. From Emma. "How did today go?" He smiled. He typed slowly. "I spoke more than usual." It felt strange, but good. The reply came a minute later. That's how change always feels at first. The days passed. Daniel began speaking a little more each day at work, at the store, even with himself. Sometimes he made mistakes. Sometimes he forgot words. Sometimes his sentences were simple, but they were his. One evening, while walking home, he stopped near the river again. The same water. The same path, but he was not the same person. He took a deep breath and spoke out loud, softly, in English. "Today, I tried, and that is enough." The river continued moving, calm, patient, just like progress. Inside his apartment, Daniel opened his notebook again. He wrote another sentence. "Fluency grows from courage, not silence." He closed the notebook and smiled. Because this time, he believed it. The city was quiet again that night, not the heavy silence of fear, but the gentle silence of understanding. Daniel stood by the window, looking at the lights in the distance. He could hear voices outside. Different languages, different stories. And for the first time, he did not feel separated from them. He was part of the sound. Weeks had passed, not weeks of perfection. Weeks of effort. Daniel still made mistakes. He still searched for words. But he no longer searched for permission to speak at work. His voice had become familiar to others. People listened. People responded, not because he was perfect, but because he was present. One evening, he returned to the cafe by the river. The same warm lights. The same soft music. Emma was not there this time, and that was okay. Some people enter your life to open a door, not to walk through it with you. He ordered coffee and sat near the window. He listened to conversations around him. Different accents, different rhythms, and he understood something. Important language was not a test, it was a bridge. Daniel opened his notebook one last time. He did not write a rule. He did not write advice. He wrote a reminder. My voice does not need to be perfect to be heard. He closed the notebook, finished his coffee, and stepped outside. The river moved calmly beside him, as it always had, slow, consistent, patient, just. Like learning, just like growth, just like speaking. And if you are listening to this story now, remember this: you do not need to wait for confidence. You do not need perfect words. You only need the courage to begin. Because every sentence you speak, no matter how simple, moves you forward. Thank you for listening. And remember, your voice matters.